sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
The Indians turned the page on April and got May started out with a bang, pounding out 13 hits in a 9-4 win over Toronto. The offense will look to continue that trend in support of Cy Young Award winner Corey Kluber, who went winless in April with just 7 runs of support in his 5 starts. We'll see if Tri-Bats can remain hot as the spring air warms up. Next on Sports Time Ohio. It's a sunny day at the old ball yard here this afternoon. The Cleveland Indians take on the Toronto Blue Jays at Progressive Field. It's Game 3 of their 4-game weekend series. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. So far, they've split the first 2 games. Last night, an impressive win for the Tribe. Every starter in the lineup had at least 1 hit. First time they've done that since August 1st of a year ago. What was more impressive about the offense was how they responded every time Toronto scored early in the game.
Well, you certainly like that. As a team, they haven't done that a lot this year, but last night they did. Jason Kipnis comes up. He answers with a solo home run. And then Moss, bases loaded. He hits a double down the line. Michael Brantley comes up, hits a 2-run homer, his first homer of the year. Brett Hayes hits a 3-run homer. They had 8 unanswered runs yesterday. They responded every time the Toronto Blue Jays got on the board, and I'll tell you, offensively, it was fun. Now, on the other side, Carlos Carrasco comes out in the shutdown innings after you come back, and on his season, he's done a tremendous job in his 8 innings. He's given up just 2 hits, not allowed a run, and 10 strikeouts, and overall, the starters have done a very good job in the shutdown innings.
Corey Kluber, the Cy Young Award winner of a year ago. Obviously, that raises the expectations. He may be winless so far in the year, but Rick, if you look closer at his overall numbers compared to a year ago, very similar. A slow start, but that doesn't mean that Corey Kluber still isn't going to get things going.
No, Corey Kluber's been just fine. His first 3 starts, he could have won every single ball game. They just couldn't score for him. But Kluber, what they're doing is making an adjustment. I think some hitters are getting aggressive early in the count on Corey. And the one thing, if you look at his numbers, that's different is 100-point difference in the batting average when he has runners on base or in scoring position. He's going to be just fine. He's going to be matched up against a young kid, a rookie, Aaron Sanchez, who's got a good live fastball, good curveball, but a little erratic. So we'll see what happens today, but we're looking for Kluber to get win number 1 in May.
The thing would help Corey Kluber maybe most of all, some runs of support when he's in the ballgame. We'll see if the Tri-Bats stay hot today. This first pitch and the starting lineups coming up next. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by for one on to first. Double play! Brantley slugs one, and it is gone! Brett Hayes has sent one out of here! Swing and a miss. He struck him out, and the Indians win it. So the Tribe has even up this series against Toronto, winning last night convincingly. And now we'll see if Corey Kluber can pitch them to a series lead before the finale tomorrow afternoon. Matt Underwood, Rick Manning with you. Let's go down to the field where Andre Knott is standing by. And Andre, you've got Corey Kluber on the hill today. He's given up more hits than innings pitched, and look at his last two starts, 23 hits and 12 and a third innings. What have they identified as the problem? What does he do to fix it?
He's identifying the aggressive nature of hitters against him that don't want to get late in the count, Matt. And he basically said to me, he goes, I've got to make the adjustments that the hitters have made. He's been around the league a couple of times, and obviously the last couple of starts have been against American League Central teams. But he said, look, this Toronto team is much like the last team he pitched against. They want to jump on him early. So look for him to throw more cutters maybe earlier in the count, more sliders early in the count, anything to keep them off so he can get to his fastball later in the game. But he gets it, and we saw it last night with Carlos Carrasco. Just because they're aggressive, he can't lose his aggressive nature that he likes to throw strikes early. Teams have taken advantage of that so far this season, but he can't go away from that because that's his bread and butter at the end of the day.
Andre, great point. And Rick, let me ask you, how do you make changes without changing who you are as a pitcher?
Well, you locate exactly what you have to do. Carrasco got a couple of fastballs hit last night, so he wanted to change and started going breaking balls. Well, that's against his pattern. He's pretty much a power pitcher. But you have to locate it a little better. Every once in a while, throw a changeup, to good hitters. And Kluber's the same way. He will start throwing his cutter, but he can throw his cutter anytime for strikes, usually. And, he's got breaking stuff that he can go. Hitters, once you've proven to them that you can get ahead of them, and Corey can put you away with 2 or 3 different pitches, they don't want to get to 2 strikes because they know you can bury them. So now it's time for Corey to make adjustments, and I'm sure he will.
You saw the keys to the game brought to you by Wayside Furniture, and hopefully for the Indians offensively they can continue where they've started to find some rhythm. I mean, hey, it's small doses, but you look at their last 3 wins, and in those last 3 victories, a lot of hits, a lot of runs scored, and not just one big inning necessarily.
The thing about baseball, you can't do it all in one day. You can't make it up. It's one day at a time, and you build on every single day and get momentum rolling, and then that's how you get going.
All right, let's take a look at the starting lineup for the Blue Jays. It's presented by Toyota. And for John Gibbons, Devon Travis back in the leadoff spot, followed by Josh Donaldson and then Jose Bautista. Edwin Encarnacion bats cleanup. Russell Martin fifth. Kevin Pillar third in the American League with 8 doubles, will hit 6th. Then it's Michael Saunders, Ryan Goins, and Ezekiel Carrera, the former Indian, gets to call up his first action this year will be today.
Today's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher is Corey Kluber. He's making his 6th start, and he's looking for his first win. But in his last start, he ended up getting 5 strikeouts, reaching 500 for his career in his 80th game, which was very good. Against Kansas City, 6 1/3 innings. In his last 2 starts, he's given up 23 hits in his 12 1/3 innings. That's one thing, that is a concern. He's given up a lot of hits, but his cutter was a little flat last time out. He's 1-1 in his career in his 2 starts against the Toronto Blue Jays. But last year against the AL East, he was 5-1, and he's on a 5-game winning streak against the East. Let's check out the defense, brought to you by Chrysler. And this is Brantley. Tyler Holt gets the start in center field. Michael Bourne was a late scratch because I think of that head-first slide he made last night. Moss is in right field. Chisenhall at third, Ramirez at short, Kipnis is at second, Santana at first with Perez back in there behind the dish.
James Hoy will call the balls and strikes. John Tumpane is at first. Crew chief John Hirschbeck at second, and Bill Welke down at third. There is Devon Travis, the young man who has really opened a lot of eyes in Toronto. They really felt good when they acquired him from Detroit in the trade. I don't think they realized how quickly he would have an impact. And John Gibbons said, man, they're really, you look at him, he said, doesn't seem to be a hole in his swing. He does everything well. They've really been impressed. He was 0 for 4 in the series opener, sat out last night, back in here today.
Well, I found out one of the reasons why he sat out yesterday. In game number 1, he was playing a deep second base, and Moss hit an in-between hopper that came up and bit him on the shoulder. He knocked it down. It was a base hit, but that hurt his shoulder, and he was playing through some pain in that game. So he gets yesterday off and just don't know how it feels. It's obviously good enough to get into the game today.
Tied for 4th in the American League in homers and runs batted in with 6 and 19 respectively. John Gibbons has to love that. Corey Kluber likes to see that. A big swing and a miss. It's 1-2. Kluber with a 1-2 pitch. Hit hard into right field, a base hit.
Pretty good swing right there by Travis. And it was a fastball inside. Corey shook him off. He wanted to go back, but he didn't get it in where he wanted. That was a two-seamer where he's been trying to bury guys, at least right-handers, with that pitch. He just didn't get it in there. First hitter of the game, so Travis will start with a base knock.
And that's going to bring up Josh Donaldson, who is currently 10th in the American League with a .330 batting average. And like his teammate Travis, tied for 4th with 6 home runs. Donaldson connected last night for a leadoff home run. He was the leadoff man with Travis sitting out. Donaldson checks. It's a called strike. 1-1.
Donaldson started the game off with a home run yesterday. Leadoff home run off Carrasco. Everybody moved up a spot when Travis was on the bench.
Wow, the Blue Jay fans starting to make their presence felt here right out of the gate.
Well, you'd expect that. They travel well when they come here in the nice weekends, sunshine, warm day.
The 1-1 to Donaldson. Popped him up. Playable here for Santana into foul territory. One away.
Okay, now he executed this pitch to Donaldson. I think he came in. Let's check it out on our Nissan pitch tracker. He's going at two-seam fastball inside, but he gets it in here to Donaldson. He didn't get it in to Travis, and Travis got the base hit, but there's the pitch he was looking to do. So he comes right back with it and gets an easy pop out in foul territory for out number 1.
And now he'll deal with Jose Bautista.
Here's one of those 4 o'clock starts, Matt. Sunny, nice blue skies. I'm thinking try and score early if you're the Indians or if you're any team, because those shadows will be coming in here before long. Be tough to see as a hitter.
Yeah, with no cloud cover whatsoever, they're going to come into play here in probably the next, what would you say, half an hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah, say an hour, but you're probably right. Less than that.
Bautista, 3 for 6 so far in the series. All 3 of his hits have been doubles. Swung on and missed. Swung out and missed. Perez came up, offered a glance down at first base where Devon Travis wasn't too far off the bag. But now Bautista down on the count, 1-2. Travis only has the 1 steal so far on the year. He takes off here, and a foul by Batista. It's almost a situation where for Travis, A, he's a rookie, and B, if he does get on base, he's got guys like Donaldson who's hitting everything in sight, Batista who can hit a home run, and Encarnacion.
Yeah, you don't have to run. Those guys can hit. You're in scoring position at first base. I mean, when they're swinging the bats.
Yep.
You really are.
And you don't want to take a chance and give up and out with those guys coming up.
Especially early in the game, and unless I think he was running on 1-2 count there because figuring Kluber may throw a slider or a breaking ball, and sometimes you have a chance of bouncing them.
He's not running this time.
Nice
the pitch was inside, really pushing Batista back.
Nice pitch. Everything cutters away is what it's been. But here comes a fastball. You see he's leaning out over the plate. He's getting comfortable. And that ball's not that far inside, but when you start cheating, and there it is. So that was a very good pitch. See if he goes back to his cutter away, or he can go slider away.
Offers a throw to first instead. Travis back.
A lot of times as a pitcher, you will throw to first base if you know you're throwing a breaking ball. Keep that runner a little bit closer.
Now the 2-2, runner holds, and a swing and a miss. He struck him out. Kluber took a little something off, and Batista is his first strikeout victim of the day.
And Corey comes back with the first slider in this at-bat. That's a little slower. It's got a little more break to it. He saw all cutters for the breaking pitch until strike 3.
And now with 2 down, Edwin Encarnacion to the plate. Encarnacion 3 out of 7 against the Indians so far with a double. Hit the center field. That goes Holt. Onto the track. At the wall. Can't make the catch. Coming around third, Travis will score into second with a 2-out RBI double as Edwin Encarnacion and the Blue Jays grab the early lead. Looked like Holt drifting back on the ball had a chance, but Rick maybe got himself pinned up against the fence before he could time his leap.
And it's a tough play in the sunshine. You're looking up into sunshine, too, as you go back. It's a timing play. That's a cutter that stayed inside. I think Kluber thought it was gone, but you see he ran himself right into the wall. He didn't give himself a chance to jump because he didn't know where he was. He took one too many steps. Now, I don't know if it was because he had to look up in the sun. He couldn't get a peek at where he was on the warning track. Not an easy play, mind you. But the ball, he jammed himself into the wall. It'll go as a double. And the Jays take a 1-0 lead.
Here is Russell Martin. And a swing and a foul tip. That is 22 consecutive games now for Toronto with a double. 49 on the year. They're 1 behind Kansas City for the American League lead in that category. The 0-1, down and in. So the Blue Jays strike with a big 2-out RBI hit here in the first. Swung on and missed. Good slider away, or maybe just a cut fastball again. his cutter's got sometimes as much movement as a slider.
It does. It really does. And the one he threw to Encarnacion, he left on the inner part of the plate.
The 1-2. Upstairs with a fastball. The 2-2 hit on the ground is short. Jose Ramirez will throw him out. The inning is over, but the Blue Jays strike with a run in the first. The Indians are coming to bat. Take a look at the Indians starting lineup today, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. For Terry Francona, Jason Kipnis once again leading it off, followed by Jose Ramirez. Michael Brantley will bat third, Carlos Santana cleanup. Brandon Moss heating up will bat fifth, then it's David Murphy, followed by Lonnie Chisenhall, Roberto Perez, and Tyler Holt will bat ninth.
Today's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher will be Aaron Sanchez. He's 1-2. He's making his fifth career major league start. His longest outing came in his last start against Boston, going 5 2/3 innings. He's got a good fastball, doesn't really know where it's going. Good curveball. The command is not there. He's a young pitcher. We'll see how consistent he is. The defense behind him today, brought to you by Chrysler. Saunders, Pilar, Carrera in the outfield. Donaldson, Goins, Travis, Encarnacion on the infield with Martin catching.
So Aaron Sanchez ready to go in the first pitch, up and away, ball one.
I think patience comes into play here with this guy. You want to see it's his first time facing the Indians. He has a live arm, a lot like what Norris did in the first game. You know, the ball's moving all over the place, and we'll see if he can find it. But that's what they have. They have a bunch of young pitchers here. Would they have 3 rookies in the bullpen? They have 6 rookies on the team, and you know they're up here and they're learning at a difficult level to learn at.
Sanchez is 22 years old. He was their first round pick back in 2010. 34th overall, was a supplemental pick.
There you go.
Kipnis aboard to start the game. Our window systems, game time temperature is 61 degrees. And I got to tell you, driving in today, it finally felt like spring. This is legit right here.
Well,
I saw like 2 or 3 people with their tops down. I mean, the convertible tops.
Was Gary driving in on the way?
Here's,
Geez, I hope. That's what I thought. Not summer yet.
Jose Ramirez back in the lineup.
What way do you come to the park?
By way of the topless beach.
I'm following you home.
The 0-1 pitch bounced in the hole, and Ramirez has a knock.
There you go. Ramirez down in the count 0-1, but stayed on the ball.
Our great clip of the game from last night comes off the bat of Michael Brantley. He's 5 for 9 in the series. That was his first home run of the year. Gave the Indians the lead for good. And Michael Brantley comes into today's game 6th in the American League in batting average. Tied for 6th with 7 doubles. And oh, by the way, he's hitting .533 with runners in scoring position, which is the situation that we have here. That's second best in the league. And Sanchez is in trouble right out of the gate.
Yeah, but he's doing the same thing he did last year. Putting the barrel of the bat to the baseball. He's hitting everything solid. Even his outs are on the nose right now. And he's just a clutch hitter. He's one of the best hitters in the game.
Down low, ball 1.
And Michael's that type of hitter, that he's not going to mess around and go out of the strike zone.
Old Johnny Ray, Freddie Patek, Mike Easler, Al Oliver.
Yeah, those I remember, Oliver and Easler. How about that? Freddie Patek, though, huh? That was back when the Jays just started in '77.
Good pitch, gets it in for a strike. Brantley takes a look at the situation. Blue Jays play him about as straight up as you can. The 1-1.
Comes back with a couple of good hooks to get back. Martin may be slowing him down a little bit. But 2 good pitches here. Curveballs. All right, now Michael he's got a good look at him. Now he knows what they do.
Two on, nobody out. Bottom of the first, drive down a run. And a big bouncer to first. And Encarnacion goes to second for 1. The return throw, not in time. Brantley with a great leap at the end of the play to beat it out.
I'll tell you what, Sanchez did a nice job of getting over there and acting like a first baseman, where a lot of times you see a shortstop will not make the throw because the pitcher's running over there. He was over there and he had a stretch on the play. Kicks the bag and makes a good strong throw. And look at him. That's a bang-bang play. That's good hustle by Sanchez, but it's also a hustle by Brantley to beat it out.
So now first and third with 1 out, and Carlos Santana coming to the plate. Santana 2 for 9 so far in the series. And he's got an RBI situation right here.
Yeah, let's see if he can keep a short swing together here.
Brantley aggressively takes off on the first pitch and swipes the bag, his second steal of the year.
I like it a lot. Don't let him settle in, and he picked the right pitch to steal on. They start with a breaking ball, and he's off and running, and Martin doesn't even offer a throw. Great jump. He was so good last year. What was he, 23 or 24 last year? And the only time he was caught, he was picked off second base in Detroit, if you remember.
Yeah. Santana kind of squibs 1 to third to look Brantley back. The Indians score the tying run. Santana gets an RBI, his 12th of the year, and we are tied at 1. I'd like to see that again. I don't know what the pitch was, but Santana really looked like he got jammed on it.
Well, he started him off breaking ball. The thing of it is you get the guy in from third, but here you go. You want to see what it was? It was a high hanging breaking ball. And I'll tell you what, usually that's a pitch you would look in the air, but it was on the ground. He jammed himself, I guess.
Brandon Moss takes a strike, so the Indians tie the game 1-1. Just like last night, Toronto scores in the first, and the Indians immediately respond in their half.
And a leadoff walk. Kipnis comes in to score. I'll tell you what, if Martin has been going through what he's been through in this series, he's in pain. He's been all around, and he's been
hit everywhere.
Yeah, he has. And this ball, short hops, looks like it got him in the foot.
Yep. Last night it was the bare hand.
And then his pitchers have been all over. There's been balls in the dirt for the first 2 games of this series.
0-2 count for Brandon Moss. With a go-ahead run in scoring position, he strikes out. Martin will have to throw to first. He does, inning over. We've played an inning in Cleveland. We're tied at 1. The Klubot, Cy Young Cyborg. They'll go to work here in the second inning with Kevin Pillar, Michael Saunders, and Ryan Goins due up. Pitch up high, ball 1. Kevin Pillar, 3 for 8 in the series. His first career triple came last night. Missed inside with it. 2 balls and a strike. Fouled up third base side. 5 of his 9 hits on this current 8-game road trip have gone for extra bases for Kevin Pillar.
Yeah, he's got 4 RBIs in the series so far and has made a couple of beautiful defensive plays.
Little jam job towards shallow right, coming hard. Brandon Moss, nice running catch. 1 down. Well, Pillar's made his presence felt on defense in this series. This was game 1. That was an outstanding play. And then last night.
That was off of Moss. So Moss had to give him back. This is off Kipnis. Get rid of it. And this guy's he's a very good outfielder, man. He can play all over the place. He made a couple of great plays in left field earlier in the year. Now he's playing center field, but he's a good one.
Michael Saunders shows bunts it off the plate. Nice grab by Perez, but not in time as he wheeled and tried to fire to first.
Well, when you're hitting 100, as Saunders is, and he's just getting back because he had some knee issues, this is the way to do it. You start off, and it went off the plate high enough, and once it hits the ground, by the time Perez can get there, Saunders is going to beat it out. So an infield single.
And 1 on, 1 out for Toronto now.
And you can see early this first time through, the Blue Jays trying to get to Kluber early. 2 out of their 3 hits have come on the first pitch. Of course, Bautista's and now Saunders.
Ryan Goins. A little bit high, ball 1. Runner goes. And a chopper foul first base side.
Play a little hit and run action here. Start the runner. Gibbons says, let's get aggressive down at the bottom part of the lineup. Early in the game.
Well, Toronto leads the majors in runs scored, and John Gibbons may figure with their young pitching staff, they're going to have to continue to push the envelope,
especially early in the game and against a good pitcher. You're at the bottom part of your lineup. You have an 0-1 count. Kluber's going to be around the plate. It all makes sense. You know, the cards are dealt, and it makes sense.
That's hammered. Right field. Moss gives chase. That'll go to the wall. Saunders lumbering into third. He'll be stopped there. And the Blue Jays come right back after the bunt single by Saunders. Goins a ringing double. Second and third, 1 out.
There you go. 50 doubles for the Jays now, and he picks on a Kluber mistake and drilled it down the line. It's another cutter that stayed middle of the plate. And, you know, his cutter was flat his last time out. That for Corey was a flat cutter. I thought Moss played that ball very well to get it in and hold Saunders at third base. They can't try and stretch him home, so he gets it into Kipnis. Now they have second and third and just 1 out.
And now Ezekiel Carrera. One-time Indians farmhand who spent some time with the Tribe.
Don't put out they may bunt here, or Carrera may do it on his own. I've seen him do it before.
He checks on a called strike. Carrera spent last year with the Tigers, mostly in the minor leagues, but he did play 45 games with the Tigers, and he hit .261. So far in 20 games this year with AAA Buffalo. You saw his numbers there. Checks on a ball in the dirt. And he went, says third base ump Bill Welke. And it's 0-2.
He did go back-to-back changeups here from Kluber to the left-hander. Take a look at it from the side, and you'll see what he does. As he change up, he's fooled. There you'll see the bat way out in front of home plate. Intention is there.
Strike 3 called. Kluber made quick work of Carrera, 2 down.
There's the comeback. That's really a nice sequence by Kluber. Scoring position, change up, comeback fastball. Started it at the hip, and it gets the inside corner. Carrera gives up on it. You don't see pitches like this in the minor leagues, I can tell you that. So he was looking away. He was looking for something he could elevate. Actually, just something to put in play with runners in scoring position. Infielders are back. They're giving you a run, and he couldn't put it in play. Good pitch.
And now Kluber will face Devon Travis to try and get out of the inning. keep it a 1-1 game. Cutter low and away.
Nice
swing and a miss. You know, Travis is one of those guys, Rick. You always talk about guys passing the eye test. At first glance, you know, at 5'9" and under 200 pounds, he doesn't look like a guy who would produce or generate the kind of power that he has already this year.
Well, you know what? I mean, he's built, he's solid, you know, and 5'9". How about Altuve? He's at 5'6", but he's solid, you know, and the ball jumps off his bat. It's all a matter of bat speed.
1-1 pitch. Swing and a miss. Really crossed him up.
Yeah, he did. You know, that's what makes baseball such a great game, because you don't have to be 6'5", 250 to hit the ball hard. You know, you get good bat speed, and if you can get the barrel of the bat to the ball, it jumps off it. The pitchers supply the power.
Kluber. The 1-2 pitch. Off the end of the bat towards center field. Holt will make the catch, and the inning is over. Terrific job of pitching out of a jam by Corey Kluber. 1-1, middle of the second.
All season long with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with live radio broadcast, stats, breaking news, and more. Just download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
David Murphy to lead off for Cleveland here in bottom of the second. And Aaron Sanchez delivers down low, ball one. That snaps a string of 8 consecutive strikes thrown by Sanchez to end the first inning. Right into the glove of Encarnacion, one away. Time now for our player profile, courtesy of Levin. Mentioned earlier, he was the 34th overall pick in 2010. Last year, out of the bullpen, notched 3 saves. And as you pointed out earlier, live arm. Right now, the matter is command.
Yeah, it's
consistent command.
He's a 22-year-old. Or how many 22-year-olds you see, with a good feel and a good command? He has outstanding stuff. It's just a matter of commanding it, and it takes a while to learn.
Back-to-back routine plays for Encarnacion, 2 away.
If he's on his game and he's throwing strikes, you can see he you can top it. I mean, you think about it. We went back. We had Carrasco for a while. You have Salazar. You have a bunch of young pitchers. Now they're 25 and then on up. It's going to take a little while for these guys to get a feel for the big leagues.
Well, the one thing that Mark Burley mentioned after the game last night, and he was pretty much despondent for how well he pitched, but he said it's been a bad stretch for all of us starters. We've killed the bullpen already. He said we've only had a handful of well-pitched games. One guy who's pitched into the 8th inning. We haven't done a good job of getting deep into games like we're capable of, and that's what we're supposed to do. We've caused some guys to be sent down, guys to be called up, and rotating guys. And a quick inning for Sanchez. 1, 2, 3 go the Indians. And after 2, we are tied at 1.
Wins. That'll be Friday, May 8th, and you can save on tickets. You can buy lower box or lower reserve tickets by May 4th. You'll save 24%. Just go to Indians.com.
For the Blue Jays, Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion. Donaldson fouled out to first base in the first inning. He's a guy that has been able to, A, put the bat on the ball, get on base a lot, and because of the guys who bat behind him, he's scoring a lot. Blue Jays lead the league in runs scored, and Donaldson is the top guy to cross the dish. 20 runs scored, best in the American League.
Yeah, with those guys hitting behind you, you get on base, there's a pretty good chance you're going to touch home plate a time or two during the course of a game.
Caught the outside corner. The unhittable pitch.
Always been one of those right-handed hitters with a slightly closed stance, and he likes to get out there and hook a baseball when possible. See, he's going to stay closed, and he's quick to the baseball, too.
The 1-2. Waiting for the ball to come down off the screen, and Kluber's got one he doesn't like, so he'll ask for another one. Now the 1-2. Slowly chopped to first. Santana. Kluber quickly over to the bag. Did he miss? No, he got it.
He got it. He made sure he was there. That's an in-between flip there, because Kluber's got to get over there in time to get to the base. You almost have to lead him on the throw, which he did. He came down late, but he did hit it. I think he hit it twice.
He wanted to make sure, though, didn't he?
Exactly. I watched. See the first swipe. Maybe he did. Remember Zipchinski the other day came down and missed it, and they ended up scoring a run because he didn't touch first base. It was just an awkward angle.
Yeah, I think the umpire pointing to the bag indicating that Kluber did come back and get it, and that was important. So the out recorded, Jose Bautista struck out his first time up. Up high, ball one. One and one to count. In tight, really pushed him back off the plate. He did that to him first time up.
Yes, he did. Now, if you're Bautista, see if you look away again this time. He got him with a slider to strike him out in the first at-bat.
Fouled back out of play.
Boy, if I'm a fan today, I want to be down the first baseline. They're sitting in the sunshine, they're up in the club seats, they're down in the corner, and they're having some fun. That looks nice, doesn't it?
Well, it sure does.
Yes, indeed.
Swung on and missed. Kluber got him again.
Well, 3 strikeouts for Corey, and 2 have come against Bautista. Then you'll see it's another slider down and out over the plate, so he's been able to get him twice.
Our stat of the game is brought to you by Buick. In April, Corey Kluber last year had a 4.14 ERA. This year his ERA 4.24. But look how he bounced back in May, going 4-0 with a 2.09. Point being that, okay, he got off to a rocky start this year, but statistically, really not that much different than what he had a year ago.
You're right. When you look at the numbers, it's pretty much the same.
Difference is this year he's got that giant bullseye on him.
Well, you don't have a win because they haven't scored.
No 1-0. And whereas last year there may have been some starts, especially early in the year, where opponents said, who's this guy we're facing today? Yeah. Now everybody knows who he is.
Well, when you win Cy Young, people are gunning for you. They can't wait to see you. You know why? They want to beat the best. They go out there and you're going to get every A game imaginable. So they can call home. Those guys say, yeah, I got 2 hits off Cy Young. Who you kidding? I belong in the big leagues.
Now the 2-1 pitch. Encarnacion not even sniffing. And it's 3-1. Encarnacion sent one to deep center field for an RBI double in the first, accounting for the Jays' lone run. Full count. Good fastball that time from Kluber. Surprise 3-1, and Encarnacion wasn't ready to turn it loose there.
He was looking for middle in, and the ball was away. He was trying to hit it to the left field bleachers, and that ball, he would have had to hit it to center or right center.
Now the payoff pitch. He rolls it to third where Lonnie Chisenhall is there, and a perfect feed across the diamond. 1, 2, 3 go the Blue Jays. We remain tied at 1, middle of the third. Just a reminder as you enjoy a cold one to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time. Brought to you by Miller Lite. Right now we're entering the bottom of the third, and this will be an interesting inning just to watch how hitters react. We saw both pitchers go 1, 2, 3 in their respective last innings of work. But you look at right now, you got the pitcher is going to be completely in the shadows.
Right.
Then it's going to be a stream of light. Then there's another set of shadows right before the ball gets to home plate.
You know, the whole thing about the shadows and the sunlight is trying to pick up the spin. Sometimes it's like trying to hit a half of a baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't get a good look. It's tough enough to hit it, especially when these guys are throwing mid-90s, you know, and they have good sliders. But it's the spin. Sometimes you don't see the spin, so you just rather see a fastball. But
One
when you
ball,
have
two
a good
strikes.
one and you locate it, you can't hit it anyway. So what difference does it make? And, you know, I'm not sure if that's more difficult than maybe in a little while. You have to ask the hitters.
The 1-2.
Well,
Both
that wasn't a
strikes
very
out.
good swing, so he might be having a tough time seeing it.
Well, do you end up being reduced to sort of a guess hitter then?
Yeah, you just see the baseball and just try and put it in play. Second strikeout for Sanchez. See, it looks like he's feeling for the ball. The ball's by him. He missed that by a foot. Well, you just try and put it in play the best you can. You can let's watch some of the swings from various hitters. It's not easy.
Jason Kipnis walked and scored the Tribe's only run.
Andre's down there. I wish you could ask him, hey, can you see the baseball?
Well, even from our perspective, you just see it. You see almost like a burst of light, then it disappears, and then you pick it up again as it goes through the shadows. I mean, we've talked about it so many times in the past, just about to hit a major league fastball that's in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Your reaction time is
Well,
minimal at best.
That shot right there is pretty good. You can see the pitcher in the shade, so he looks a little dark. And, you know, hitter's in the sunshine. So, and there's not a whole lot of time to figure out what you want to hit, but Kipnis walks for the second straight time.
Well, he's really taken to this leadoff spot and done a nice job. Injury report brought to you by the injury attorneys at Elk & Elk. Alcides Escobar put on the concussion DL after the effects of when he was hit by a pitch here a couple of nights ago. Chris Johnson for Atlanta is on the DL as well. Jose Ramirez, a base hit his first time up. And he takes low ball one.
I want to see if Kipnis takes off. Maybe they have something on this young man. He doesn't look actually too quick to home plate. He's at least average. But
He threw it away, and it bounces off the sidewall, and Kipnis alertly has to stay right there. The Blue Jays catch a huge break. Otherwise, Kipnis is on second with no problem. But the ball hit the sidewall and carried him right to Devon Travis.
Let's look. He's throwing that out of the shade. Encarnacion,
Sandy almost got hit by that
Well, you know what?
thing.
Because at first base, Encarnacion, I don't know if he saw the ball. To be honest with you, it looked like it handcuffed him.
There's a strike call, 1-1. Right
Well,
now, Encarnacion
know-
is saying, if you throw it, please hit my glove.
You know, I know right now it's not a favorite time for any hitters. You know, at 4 o'clock and starts, and now is about the time they take batting practice where the coaches are 45 feet in, they're throwing or whatever. It's a lot easier to hit that at that time for a 7 o'clock game than it is right now at the real game time.
Ramirez down on the count now, 1-2. Breaking ball, and he got a piece of it.
Yeah, he had an 0-1 fastball. His first at bat just hit it in the hole between short and third. set up the first inning, but not a lot of damage done. Oh,
Kipnis,
great jump.
Huge jump. Slowly tapped to second base. And Ramirez is out number 2.
Yeah, nothing you could do. He timed him beautifully, and Ramirez has 2 strikes on him.
Let's go down to Andre as Michael Brantley comes to the plate. Brantley, already the toughest guy to strike out in the American League by far, and his consistency just continues to amaze, doesn't it?
It really is. And talking to Ty Van Berkeley today, he says, you know what, I'm going to make it simple for you. He says Brantley's success comes from his consistent work ethic. He says he does the same exact work every day off a tee, soft toss, BP, and he goes that way when he is off, it's easier to fix his problems. And he says his timing is the best he's ever dealt with in any batter that he's dealt with. And he says really he's just trying to get Brantley to rub off on the rest of the guys as he goes along.
Well, you can't blame him for that.
Michael takes a strike.
You know, if I was a hitter and I'm playing with the Indians, I would pick his brain, Brantley's. You know, I mean, that's all you have to do is you talk to him. You go through his process, what he does, what he sees. Not that everybody's going to be the same.
Oh, it gets to the backstop, and down to third goes Kipnis on the wild pitch. Well, I think, Rick, one of the things that makes Michael so consistent is that he doesn't overcomplicate things. He keeps it rather simple.
Yeah,
and I know,
yes,
sometimes when you hear his answers to reporters' questions, they sound overly bland. I just think that's what he does. I'm looking for a good pitch to hit. I put a good swing on it. I don't think he goes up there thinking about 10 different things.
Much. He sees it. He's patient. He swings at strikes. He takes balls. You know, it is very simple.
Line drive, base hit into center field, and the Indians take the lead. Brantley delivers again with a 2-out RBI single. His 10th run batted in on the year.
And why is he so good with runners in scoring position? Because he waits. The pressure's on the pitcher. This will be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. He gets an RBI on the breaking ball. That's the pitch that Sanchez can control so much better today than his fastball. And don't think Brantley doesn't realize that, and he smokes it right back up the middle. So Kipnis, who has walked twice, has scored both Indians' runs. No, the only 2 walks that Sanchez has given up.
And Brantley, who came in batting .533 with runners in scoring position, is 1 for 2 today. Again, he just stays on that consistent path. And now we'll see if Carlos Santana can deliver. He picked up an RBI in the first inning on a ground ball out.
Now, you see, here's a guy that is patient, like Brantley, but he tries to do too much when you get guys in scoring position and on base. And a case in point was last night with his first at-bat where he took a line drive to right field with a beautiful swing, you know, and hit it nicely, and then comes up with the bases loaded and had one of the worst at-bats because he's trying to pull everything, you know, trying to hit a 5-run homer.
It's like the two don't seem like they would logically go together. He leads the league with 18 walks, and yet all that patience goes out the window when he gets a guy in the scoring position.
Yeah, see, that's the mentality. It's different. He tries to do too much where Brantley just says, I'll take a single.
Chased one that time. It's 2-2.
Hitters count. Tough pitch to hit, and tried to pull it.
Runner goes. Close pitch called a ball, and an uncontested steal for Brantley. His second of the game. Give him 3 on the year.
Pitch is on the inside corner. Pretty good pitch. A little in off the plate, I guess. Goes to a full count. Brantley on second with his second steal.
Payoff pitch. Ball 4. So 2 on, 2 out, and Brandon Moss will get a chance now. Moss struck out his first time up. Gets his second look at the rookie Aaron Sanchez. Fouled off right at the plate. Down low and a good block by Russell Martin. Well, it's been a long inning for Sanchez. Now can the Indians take advantage? Swing and a miss.
They've already taken advantage of the inning the way it started because Kipnis had a 1-out walk. He went to second on a wild pitch and then scored on Michael Brantley's 2-out base hit. The walk to Santana keeps the inning going for Moss. Now he's going to have to battle with a 1-2 count on him.
Now the 1-2. Got him. Big strikeout for Aaron Sanchez. As the Indians strand the runner in scoring position, leave 2 on. But Michael Brantley's RBI single puts the Indians in front 2-1. Indians on top. We'll go to the 4th inning, and it will be 5, 6, and 7 due up for Toronto. Nice crowd pouring out here on a beautiful day at the ballpark. Temperature low 60s when we started today. It was near 70 degrees, though, rolling down here at about 1 o'clock today. Good ball game. Well pitched so far. 2-1 Tribe, 4th inning. Low and away. Kluber has retired 5 in a row. He has struck out 3 on the afternoon. Squibbed foul over toward first.
Oh, he flipped it up into the seats to the Toronto fans over there. He knows where they're sitting.
One-two pitch, and Martin almost chased after it, but held up.
You know, for these guys in the Toronto Blue Jays, it's got to be a little tougher when you don't face Kluber as much, and you can't put it in the history books. You know, like if you're in the division, you face him 4 or 5 times, like the Tigers do, like the Royals do. You know his pattern a little bit more. But boy, and that's a mistake that's crushed.
And that baby's going to find its way just beyond the reach of Tyler Holt and Brandon Moss, who converged, hit on top of the fence and up into the seats it goes. And we're right back to even now at 2-2 as Russell Martin connects on his 4th home run of the season.
I'll tell you what, that was he crushed that, and that was a mistake. I mean, when you look at the hits given up by Kluber, you're going to see a lot of them, and that's a hanging slider. And Martin will have his 4th home run, and he stayed on it beautifully to take it to right center field. So the quick response by Toronto, they come back and answer the Tribe now to take a little bit of that momentum away.
That'll bring a smile to the face of Brooke Jacoby, former Indian and current hitting coach for the Blue Jays. He was named the Jays hitting coach last November, after he spent 7 years as the Reds hitting coach. There's Jake, who was a fan favorite during his time here with the Indians.
Well, he's been around. He was a hitting coach for the Rangers, for the Reds. Now for the Blue Jays.
You know, people always look back at that 1987 Indians season. The whole Sports Illustrated cover, Jinx, etc. That was his best year.
33 dingers, didn't he?
300 batting average, 32 home runs. Was the best year by an Indians third baseman since Al Rosen in 1953. So that was a heck of a year for Jake. Kevin Pillar in the hole, 0-2. Just missing. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Popped him up. Santana coming in. First baseman is there. 1 away. Time for a Mazda game break. Let's send it down to the corner. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Rick. Let's head out to Boston. Red Sox and Yankees today. And in the top of the 9th inning, Chris Young, his 6th home run of the year, helps the Yankees to a 4-2 win over Boston. The Red Sox now have lost 5 of their last 7. Matt?
And the Yankees have crept to the top of the Eastern Division standings.
Yeah, how about that?
Michael Saunders, a bunt single his first time up. Bangs it to third. Chisenhall flags it down and throws him out. Lonnie has done just a fantastic job defensively this year at third base.
Let's take a look at the mistakes that Corey has made. There's a fastball with 2 strikes. That was just, to me, good hitting, but he left it up and in. There's the first pitch cutter to Encarnacion, who hits it off the wall. Then you're going to see a bullet right there by Goins getting down into the corner, and then the hanging breaking ball here to Martin that leaves the park, and they tie it up. So they haven't missed his mistakes. You know, they don't foul him off, or they haven't hit him at anybody. They've hit him, and they've hit him hard.
Ryan Goins with that double we just showed a moment ago. That was in the 2nd inning. Popped up foul out of play. But you look at Kluber and what he's doing offensively. The Indians have only put up 2 hits today, but they do have 2 runs. Nice play by Corey. helping himself out defensively, and that'll end the inning. But the Russell Martin solo homer has evened the game at 2, middle of the 4th. Our T-Mobile game changer. Let's take a look at Jose Altuve. Rick, 9 straight multi-hit games.
I'll tell you, he's a fun guy to watch play the game of baseball. He can hit.
And the Astros at 16-7 have won 8 in a row. They've opened up a 5-game lead in the AL West. I know it's only May 2nd, but wow, what a start for the Astros.
Well, it's good for baseball out there. They're taking the West by storm right now.
David Murphy, a ground out. His first time up, takes a strike.
He's inconsistent. You know what I mean? He can't duplicate that.
1 ball, 1 strike.
He's all legs like Murphy.
That's hit hard, deep right field. Carrera back. He's on the track. He makes the catch about a stride in front of the wall. 375 feet away from home plate. Fine play by Carrera as Murphy almost put the Indians right back on top.
Boy, it looked like he got a breaking ball. He does, and that's Murph's wheelhouse. Coming down and in, Carrera got a good jump on the ball. Times it nicely. It's deep into the glove. Look at Sanchez says, oh, finally he caught it. It stayed in the ballpark. Hit it pretty well, though.
Now Lonnie Chisenhall ground out his first time up. Chopped to short. Ryan Goins throws him out, 2 down.
Well, catch a game at the new 2-story bar with our $13 district ticket. That's presented by Sports Time Ohio. The new bar is the best place in town to grab a cold one, and with the district ticket, your first drink is on us. Go to Indians.com.
Nice job.
Thanks. Full house, baby. You want to do that?
2 away. Here's Roberto Perez. You mentioned earlier that the longest start for Sanchez, and granted this is his 3rd start of the year, but longest so far, 5 1/3 innings. And for the Blue Jays, as Mark Burley lamented after last night's game, that's been a problem when they've their last 8 starts, the starting pitchers are 2-6, 7.40 ERA. And they've gone less than 6 innings 5 times in their last 6 starts out.
Yeah. Well, he's got now 8 outs on 3 pitches or less.
Twice he has retired the side in order. And it is a 2-2 game after 4. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Two-two. 5th inning. And Corey Kluber will go to work on Ezekiel Carrera, who he struck out on 3 pitches his first time up.
Yeah, and with the 2nd and 3rd. So an opportunity, and they were given a ground ball, giving up a run for an out in that situation. 2 changeups and a well-placed heater.
Line drive, base hit into center field. So Carrera is aboard to start the 5th for the Blue Jays.
Another first pitch base hit. That's 3. 3 of their hits now out of 6 have come on the first pitch.
Travis singled and scored in the first, flied to center in the second. And a strike over the inside corner. Keeps Carrera close.
Well, they tried something back in the 2nd inning. With 1 out, they started the runner with Goins hitting. Tie game, we're getting into the middle part of the game, and so you just never know.
Right field over near the line. Long run for Moss into the corner, and it's a foul ball.
Well, that ball had a little carry to it, didn't it? Slicing away from him. Moss got over there, so I think if that ball was fair, he might have had a chance to catch it. He had a long way to go. And what Goins did, he broke to second base, but stopped after 2 steps, a false start. But the ball sliced away from Brandon Moss and right, and it landed in foul territory down into the corner.
Now the 0-2. And Travis takes outside. Carrera, good speed at first. And a 1-2 count. And a foul right back. Now Travis off to a tremendous start. The rookie came in batting .325. Tied for fourth in homers and runs batted in. 17 runs scored coming in, tied for fifth. He's already crossed home plate once today. Up and away, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Cooper just over the 70 pitch mark here in the 5th inning. Runner goes. And a foul out of play to the right. Got the breaking ball and a good pitch to run on if you're Carrera. Not sure that that was the thinking there, but it worked out.
I think it
almost
was
to their advantage.
I think it was. He came back with a good fastball that was away to Travis. So, and it went to 2-2. So that's not bad. Bad thought process there. Start your runner. Carrera runs pretty well.
Not running this time, and it's outside, full count.
There you go, another fastball away, and I'm thinking now comes a breaking ball, and I think they will start Carrera again. On a full count, figuring Travis will put it in play, and if he doesn't, maybe Carrera can steal the base.
Runner goes, payoff pitch, ball 4.
Boy.
And the Blue Jays have the start that they were looking for here with their big boys coming up.
Doesn't look like he had a tough time seeing the ball, did it? He took a pitch right there. I don't know how far outside it was. It looked like a pretty good pitch. First walk for Kluber. Let's see. Boy, 3-2 pitch. Little cutter away. That's a good take. And Corey had him down in the count 0-2, if you go back and think about it.
Josh Donaldson, the batter, is 0 for 2. Missed inside, ball 1 with a fastball. Out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. You can see almost the exasperation on the face of Mickey Callaway, and I don't know that it's because those pitches are so close they're not getting call strikes, or those pitches are so close that the Blue Jay hitters aren't even offering at them.
Well, you're right. That was a ball, and he didn't offer at it. That was a good take. And, you know, for whatever reason, sometimes it's tough to see, but
now the 1-1. 2 balls and a strike.
This is going to be a big pitch here for Kluber. He could use a nice ground ball double play here.
Well, here is the 2-1. And again, he's not missing by much, but these guys aren't even sniffing.
Well, 2-1 count. You don't have to swing at that pitch as a hitter. If either it's a perfect pitch or it's just outside. It's just off the plate with a 2-1 count. If it's 1-2, it might be a different story. That's what he usually does when he pitches ahead in the count. That's how he gets all his strikeouts. He has 3 strikeouts today. That's it.
Ball 4. The bases are loaded on back-to-back walks. And you're bringing up Jose Bautista.
Well, now there's really no room for error. Carrera hit the first pitch for a leadoff single. See if Callaway goes out and has a talk with him just to slow things down a little bit here.
While they go out and talk it over, let me tell you that the second annual Velasano Bike Ride for Cancer Research takes place July 17th through the 19th. 6 different routes start and finish in downtown Cleveland, including 1- and 2-day rides. Every dollar raised by Velasano participants benefits cancer research at Cleveland Clinic. Get involved by visiting velasano.org. Well, a tough predicament for Kluber now. Bases loaded, nobody out. In a 2-2 game here in the 5th. And Jose Bautista, the batter, 0 for 2 on the day. He has struck him out both times up. Bautista so far this year, 0 for 2 with the bases loaded.
Every at-bat, he's been inside on him. And this time, it's the first pitch to maybe get a little more of that outside part of the plate. He doesn't want him out there leaning over and reaching for something.
Smashed up the middle and a base hit. The bat exploded, and the Blue Jays will take the lead on a 2-run single. Half of the barrel of Bautista's bat ended up down by third baseman Lonnie Chisenhall. But he hit it hard enough to get it through the middle.
Yeah, he went away again. Cutter, and he's seen enough of those today, but you can see he gets rid of the bat. Half of the bat, I should say. The barrel goes to third base. The rest of it stays in front of home plate. So Toronto now leads it 4-2. It's now first and second. Still nobody out. 4 straight have reached here in the 5th, and coming into today, Kluber in his 5 starts in the 5th inning, hitters were just hitting 125 off him, and he had not allowed an earned run.
Well,
today,
the bullpen's up and getting busy behind him. Just hasn't been able to consistently get ahead in key spots, I guess. That's the one common denominator.
Well, he's trying to make his adjustments to the hitters and to some of the league. And what happens now, today he knew the hitters were getting aggressive, and they have 3 hits off the first pitch. But he's fallen behind some hitters, and now he's pitching from behind in the count and makes him a mere mortal. You know, when he pitches from in front, it seems like that plate goes to about 19 inches or 20 inches. You pitch from behind, the hitters can shrink it up a little bit.
Well, he's ahead of Encarnacion 1-2. Righty, lefty up in the bullpen. Long inning for Kluber. Still nobody out. 2-2 pitch. To Chisenhall. Cuts it off. Goes to second. There's one on to first. Double play. Donaldson to third, but now 2 down in the inning. And a chance for Kluber to get out of any further trouble.
Didn't know if it was hit hard enough where they could turn it, but they certainly do. Chisenhall takes a few steps to his left, gets it to Kipnis, and on the return throw, they get Encarnacion by a half a step. So a big out there, double play ball.
10th double play that Chisenhall has been in on this year. Done a fantastic job. Last year, in his first 20 starts, he was only in on 1 double play that he started. But this year, whether it's the fact he's getting more action, but he has been really sharp with his throws. Put in a lot of work, and thus far it's really paid off. Now it's up to Kluber to try to get out of the inning. Russell Martin homered his last time up. Out of play, it's 1-1. Blue Jays take the 4-2 lead here in the 5th. Right back to the screen. This was leading off the 4th inning for Martin. Got a high slider. Drove it out of here to center. To second base, Kipnis spins and throws, and he got him. The inning is over, but the Blue Jays surge ahead 4-2 Toronto, middle of the 5th.
For kids 12 and under with the purchase of an adult ticket. And they are located in the new family deck here at the ballpark. Just log on to Indians.com.
Number 9 hitter Tyler Holt leading off here in the bottom of the 5th. Aaron Sanchez coming in. We knew he had an electric arm. Good stuff, but so far inconsistent in his first couple of starts out. But through the first 4 innings, the Indians have managed only 2 hits, both of them singles. But they have been able to turn that into 2 runs thanks to Jason Kipnis, who's walked twice and has come around to score both times.
Yeah, they've taken advantage of it, is right.
5 through 9 in the Indians' order, though. 0 for 9 with 4 strikeouts. One and 2 the count on Tyler Holt. Aaron Sanchez will be 23 years old on the first day of July. Two balls, 2 strikes. And Holt is out looking. He strikes out for the second time today, and that's 5 Ks for Sanchez. Our in-game recap brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Edwin Encarnacion with a 2-out RBI double in the first gave the Blue Jays the early lead. Indians would tie it in the bottom of the first. Go ahead on Michael Brantley's RBI single in the third. That came with 2 outs. And then the Blue Jays with a 2-run single by Jose Bautista in the 5th. Lead it now 4-2. Good looking curveball over the outside corner for Sanchez, and that's a pitch he's had some success with here today.
He's thrown that. He can control that better than he controls his fastball to this point. I think it's a little more consistent, but it's been a go-to pitch for him. You know, it's a matter of repeating your delivery, and sometimes his ball moves all over the place, his fastball. That's why sometimes you almost want to sit in the middle and just let it go. Whatever way it wants to go, let it go. Some guys are like that. They can't throw a ball straight, and it looks like he's one of them when it comes to his fastball.
Kipnis, a little half swing inside out. Nice approach, and he's aboard safely for the 3rd time today. 3rd hit in the series for Kipnis.
Well, it comes inside, and that's about all you could do with the pitch. It's really a nice job of hitting with 2 strikes. Boom, get it out of here. You know, even if you foul it off, you're still alive, but he gets a base hit with it. So a good job by Kip. He's been on all 3 times. We'll see if he has a chance. He may want to run.
Draws a throw, and again, it almost handcuffed Encarnacion.
Last time it was over there was a wild throw over to first base, wasn't it?
Yeah, but Kipnis couldn't advance.
Oh,
because
that's right, it off the wall. He ended up getting
the
second on a wild pitch. That's right.
Oh, did he get a great jump? Martin's throw, and they got him anyway.
How about a great throw? I'll tell you what, that was a great jump. He guessed right, and Martin comes up and throws a seed. And I was glad to see that Ramirez took the pitch, at least give him a chance. Terrific throw. There's no way you should throw him out there because Kipnis had a great jump. I mean, to tell you, look where that throw is, right on the money. And he had 2 to 3 steps before he even picked his foot up.
Well, if you watched Russell Martin, Rick, he almost turned that into a pitch out. I mean, he was up out of his crouch and ready to throw before the ball got to him.
I'm going to tell you, that was an unbelievable throw with the jump that Kipnis had. He didn't rush, but he threw a seed, and it was right on the money.
Watch Martin. Just watch how quickly he gets out on this.
Watch his footwork.
He sees him going. He's already up and ready to go.
And it's a fastball, and he comes out. He was lurking, wasn't he?
It's almost like he realized he's not going to swing because he wants him to try to steal it here. So I'm going to take advantage, and he did.
Boy, that's...
Heck of a throw, though, as
yes,
you pointed out.
Was.
I mean, it had to be a perfect throw.
I mean, look at it in real speed. That was slow motion. He got up and he was cheating on the play. Look at that. I dare you. Boy, he popped the safety off and he fired a seed.
The 2-2 to Ramirez. Banged up the middle. Shading him there was Goins. He has trouble with it, and Ramirez beats it out.
Well, yeah, if you don't field it cleanly, especially with a guy like Ramirez running at short, it's going to be an error, and it's exactly what happened. It was sort of an in-between hop. Not an easy play. Check it out on our Wendy slow motion camera and see what you think. There's the hop. See it jump up and caught him on the heel of the glove. That's a tweener. But when you have a guy that has better than average speed going down the line from the left side of the plate, you bobble it as a shortstop, he's going to beat it out, which he does.
Well, let's see if the Indians could take advantage of the extra out now. Michael Brantley.
Well, do it. So try a stolen base. I would. Even though Martin did throw him out.
After that last one, I might
Well,
not?
But you know what? You take into consideration, he threw him out on a fastball. Kipnis had a great jump. He's throwing a lot of breaking balls here, and one might come to Brantley right now in a 1-0 count. That's what I'm thinking, because he can bounce him. I will tell you, though, when you throw a guy out, you see him look over the Indians' dugout saying, no, not anymore. That's intimidating. But you got to keep going. You got to keep the pressure on.
Yep.
That was an impressive throw. But you hope you pick the right pitch. But then again, the way Michael's swinging the bat, Ramirez is in scoring position at first base because he's been hitting a lot of doubles lately.
I can picture a guy like Sal Bando doing that back in his day. Maybe Thurman Munson.
What's that?
Looking over at the dugout and saying, don't run on me.
Thurman he would get rid of it so quickly. It's unbelievable. But that was just flat out a seed.
Down low, 3-0. Well, whether he's worried about Ramirez or he just doesn't want to pitch to Brantley, he's in danger of putting the tying run aboard here with Carlos Santana waiting on
everything has been hard to Brantley because Michael hit the curveball. If you remember, his last base hit was a breaking ball, so he's not going to slow it down for him, I guess, again. And if he walks him, tells me that they'd rather go at Santana, and you're not trying to put the runner in scoring position by any means. Michael will be ready now.
Three-one pitch. Ball 4. Ramirez to second, and the tying run down to first. And Carlos Santana coming up as third baseman Josh Donaldson goes to the mound for a word of encouragement to Sanchez. Russell Martin's going to head out now, and he'll have something to say to the young starter. Santana, RBI ground out in the first, walked in the third. Let's go down to Andre.
You know, Matt, this is the perfect situation of Carlos Santana where it's all about his approach. Talking to Ty Van Berkelo this morning before the game, he says, look, we've been talking to Carlos that it's all right to take what the pitcher gives you no matter what, and especially in RBI situations. And this situation is a key point in the game and something they've been talking about for the last week or so.
Well, this is what makes Michael Brantley so good in situations like this because he takes what is given. And look at first pitch breaking ball, you got to swing at it.
And an easy out to end the inning. Tribe strands a pair through 5, 4-2 Toronto. And Tony Grossi give you their evaluations on the picks and what it means for the future. Get inside the red zone Monday night at 8 on Sports Time Ohio. Corey Kluber here in the 6th inning will face 6, 7, and 8 for Toronto. Kevin Pillar to lead it off. He's 0 for 2 today. 3 for 10 in the series. It's this one hard to deep left. Back is Brantley, just beyond his reach. And into second base with a leadoff double is Pillar. Another extra base hit for that young man. That's his 9th double of the year. He came in 3rd in the league with 8.
Well, they have 3 doubles and a homer on the day. Another pitch up in the zone by Kluber, and he that ball got it over Michael's head. It surprised him. A little stronger. Out comes Francona, and this may do it now for Corey Kluber.
Yeah, he made the signal for the left-hander. He's going to go to Mark Zipchinski. With 3 straight left-handers due up in the Toronto lineup. The Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen comes here in the 6th inning with the Tribe down 4-2. And Mark Zipchinski will be coming on when we come back. is on the hook. He cannot win it. But if the Indians don't rally, he could be staring at his 4th loss of the year. Long way to go, though. A lot of baseball to be played. Mark Zipchinski coming on. You've got Michael Saunders, Ryan Goins, and Ezekiel Carrera all due up left-handed bats. Saunders 1 for 2 with a bunt single and a ground out. He's thinking about sacrificing the runner over to third here.
Well, he bunted for a base hit back in the 2nd inning off Kluber down the third baseline, high off the plate and beat it out. He will try to get that guy to third base the best he knows how, whether you have to pull a ball or put it down on a bunt. That's his job. Tricked him. Came back inside after the first one was away.
Minnesota Twins beat the White Sox earlier today 5-3. Minnesota is a .500 ball club at 12-12. The White Sox have now dropped 4 in a row as they fall to 8-13 on the year. No, look to second, nothing doing. By the way, the double by Pilar gives him an extra base hit in 6 straight games. Another young player has had a big impact early for Toronto. I had a scout tell me before the game that Pilar is a guy that, just from a metric skill set, doesn't wow you, doesn't blow you away. Doesn't have tremendous speed or tremendous power, but he plays all out all the time.
Yeah, knows he plays the game hard.
Swing and a miss. 2-2.
May have helped him out there. Chasing that breaking ball down.
Now Zepchinski with a 2-2. Couldn't get him to chase that time. Full count. The 3-2. Wow, another close pitch and another take for a Toronto hitter. It works out for a walk.
Well, you know what happened? He swung at it earlier, and then he took it in the 2-strike count.
Ryan Goins doubled in the 2nd. Comebacker in the 4th. Indians pinching in, but a little surprised to see Goins bunt here. It would be one thing if Goins was batting 9th and you had the top of the order following him, but to bunt him over for Ezekiel Carrera, unless John Gibbons is thinking about going into his pocket for a pinch hitter.
Well, he could, and then Tito would go to the bullpen probably if he brings out a right-handed hitter. But it doesn't matter here. They've got a 2-run lead. They can do whatever they want. They can move him along if they want. Obviously, he feels his best bet would be for Goins to bunt him up, and why not? Then they'd force him to bring the infield in. You'd give the hitter the advantage.
You got Smoke and Valencia on the bench for Toronto.
There you go. I like this play. I like it a lot if you're Toronto.
And Carrera will be called back for the pinch hitter. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Hey, Matt, you were just talking about the White Sox and Twins today. The Twins were actually down in this one early, but here in the bottom of the third, Torrey Hunter, his 333rd homer of his career, it tied it at 3. Twins added 2 more, and they beat the White Sox today 5-3. Matt?
All right, thanks, Al. Here comes Terry Francona as Danny Valencia is announced as the pinch hitter. Valencia, right-handed batter. And Terry will go to a right-hander out of the bullpen. Looks like Anthony Swarzak is coming on with 2 aboard, 1 out here in the 6th. Drive down a couple.
Well, Anthony Swarzak coming into this ball game now. The runners at 2nd and 3rd. Danny Valencia is the pinch hitter. Swarzak appearing for the 9th time. Does not have a win or a loss in his 11 innings. He struck out 11. And right now is when you need a big out and try and keep it a 4-2 ball game. With the sacrifice, Valencia and Swarzak, former teammates with Minnesota. But he has never faced him before. He'll get an opportunity now, and he'll be looking for a pitch he can elevate and drive, as you see Pilar, the runner, at 3rd. Saunders down at 2nd.
Valencia's best year in the big leagues came in 2011 with Minnesota when he hit 15 homers, had 72 runs batted in. These matchups are always interesting because you wonder who knows who better.
Yeah, that's true. If you play behind a pitcher, I would think the hitter has a pretty good idea what he likes to throw, but it's different every year. The infield's in for the Tribe.
Swing and a miss. Valencia didn't look good on that cut.
Well, he should have known he was going to try and throw a slider first pitch if they were teammates. Not a pitch you want to swing at. That's where the aggressiveness of a hitter, a lot of times in situations like this, will get himself out.
Now the 0-1. Slider swung out and missed, and it's 0-2.
That was a good pitch, too. So Swarzak comes right out of the chute with 2 good sliders. Ahead in the count now, 0-2. See if he stays out there with Valencia. There you'll see the slider, and it gets him to chase it. Why wouldn't you?
Runners at 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. And the 0-2 pitch. Chopped to 3rd. Chisenhall's going to come home with the throw. Low throw. And did Perez get the tag on him? No. He's called safe. He never had the ball.
That's too bad because it looked like he had time to catch the throw. Maybe he took his eye off of it. Chisenhall made the right play coming to the plate. They would have had Pilar at home plate, but he doesn't have the ball. You got to catch it first before you tag him. There it is. Plenty of time. Throws. Did it short hop him?
Yeah, I think it did.
Okay, then it wasn't a good throw if it short hops him. I didn't see that short hop. He was trying to catch it, tag him all at one time. You see Pilar touch the corner of the plate. He's safe. Umpire already called him. Yeah, short hop. Bad throw. Tried to rush it. I didn't realize the short hop but it was there, but they had the play.
(5-2) Blue Jays. Fielder's choice. Error on Chisenhall. No RBI.
Yeah, the play's right there to cut it off.
Out of play. Devon Travis has scored 2 runs today.
Well, that closes the book on Corey Kluber now. It's 5+ innings, 8 hits, 5 runs.
First and third, 1 out, 2-2 count. And now it's 3-2. Valencia, the pinch hitter, was 0-2. Put it in play. And an errant throw from Chisenhall allows the Blue Jays to extend the lead. Runner goes from first. It's ball 4, and the bases are loaded. Second walk in the inning. And now Josh Donaldson coming up.
Well, good chance. They get a base hit here. They can poke a hole in this one. Bases loaded, 1 out. Infield looking for double play.
Josh Donaldson 0 for 2. Walked his last time up. Out of play to the right.
4 Indians walks in the game, but they've come in the last 2 innings. And so far, just 1 out of the 4 have scored. But you've got 2 of them on base now.
And a very dangerous hitter at the plate in Donaldson, and 2 behind him. Good pitch. That was a beauty. Nothing into the count.
This is the guy you need to hit it on the ground because he is not getting down the line very well.
Two-strike pitch. Chopped towards third. It goes to Ramirez. He'll go to second. They get 1 on to first. Not in time. Donaldson able to leg it out. Blue Jays get another run and lead it 6-2. It was in the hole between Chisenhall and Ramirez. And Ramirez had the longer throw. But Lonnie just couldn't get to it. He had
well,
no chance.
There's not much more you could do than to turn it that way. It just wasn't hit hard enough. That second hop, it takes a while to turn it. I mean, Swarzak did everything he could do. Made a good pitch. And that's the best Donaldson could do. He beat it out. He got an extra run for him. It's a 6-2 game.
Valencia is now at third with Donaldson at first. And Jose Bautista, who drove in 2 runs in the 5th inning, at the dish. Ball 1. That's hit hard in the gap. Valencia will score. Donaldson racing to third, and he'll be held there by Luis Rivera. Runs through the stop sign, throw to the plate. Not in time.
How about that? He scored standing, and he ran through the stop sign.
Wow. That was a rocket shot by Bautista, and maybe a knockout blow for the Indians. 8-2 Toronto.
Well, there's the breaking ball, middle of the plate. He drilled it into the gap. How about Donaldson running through the take sign? That's 4 RBIs for Bautista. And another double. That's 4 doubles for Toronto and 5 extra base hits out of their 9 hits today.
I think Rivera was right to stop him. A good throw.
I agree. I mean, I was watching Louis. He was down on one knee, and I think Donaldson was grunting it out, and he just couldn't stop. Might have hurt him more to stop.
Now a base hit to right center field. Encarnacion drives home Bautista, and the route is on. A 5-run 6th for Toronto. (9-2) Blue Jays. Crack. 8 men have come to the plate in the inning. And the Blue Jays have battered the Indians for a 5 spot. Brian Shaw will be coming on to face Russell Martin when we come back. A habit of hurting teams with the big inning. That's the 6th time this year. Both the Blue Jays and the Oakland A's have 6 5-run innings already this year.
Boy, those are big innings. They can score in a hurry, though.
And that's why the Blue Jays lead the league in runs scored.
Yeah, right. They can score in a hurry, and they only have the 1 home run, which was a solo home run back in the 4th inning.
Brian Shaw is the 4th Indian to pitch in the inning. And he'll be facing Russell Martin, who is the 9th Blue Jay to bat here in the 6th. Corey Kluber started the inning, gave up a leadoff double to Kevin Pillar. Mark Zubczynski and Anthony Swarzak each recorded an out. And now Brian Shaw. Zubczynski allowed a run. He only faced 2 batters. Swarzak has allowed 3, and he's responsible for the runner at first. You can't blame it all on the air, but that certainly was costly.
Well, sure it was. I mean, you cut off that run at home plate.
And that was the first run of the inning. I mean, that would have, all of a sudden, then you're looking at, what, 2 outs, and a run hadn't scored yet. To second base, Kipnis flagged it down but couldn't come up with it. And so now there are 2 on with 2 out. And the Blue Jays have batted around as Kevin Pillar will bat for the 2nd time today, or in the inning.
Yeah, because he's the one that started it with a double off of Kluber. That was the last batter that Kluber faced. Kipnis couldn't handle that ball going into the hole, couldn't hold on to it. So 11 hits now for Durano. 9 runs on 11 hits. A lot of Toronto's hits coming early in the count. 5 times today they've hit the first pitch for base hits. They've got 2 hits on the second pitch and a couple of hits on the third. So they've been getting after it early and often.
Shaw's pitch. That's hit to center field. That's another base hit. Coming around third. Encarnacion will score. 10-2 Toronto. A 6-run 6th. Pillar has 2 hits in the inning.
Little cutter away. Takes it right back up the middle. One hopper, good pitch to throw for Shaw, but he couldn't get it and unload it. So Encarnacion comes in to score. And you're right, the route is on.
Now, not only have the Blue Jays had 6 5-run innings, it's their 6th 10-run game, which is the most in the majors. I'd have to venture a guess that the 6 times they had a 5-run inning were the 6 times they scored 10 runs. What do you think?
Well,
good chance.
Yes. and 3 of those times, I think Mark Burley was pitching. Because
yeah,
they
you're
scored
right.
11, 11, 11.
Pop to center. Holt will make the catch. An ugly 6th for the Tribe as Toronto blows it open, and they lead at 10-2.
Clubhouse at Kids Fun Day, which will take place tomorrow out at the ballpark, and kids will have an opportunity to run the bases after the game. Go to Indians.com. Complete details. Going to be 70 degrees. Another special day, we hope.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it hasn't turned out on the scoreboard the way we wanted it to today.
Danny Valencia stays in the game in right field. Brandon Moss, 0 for 2. He has struck out twice. He'll lead off the home half of the sixth. Aaron Sanchez misses outside for ball one. Aaron Sanchez went from pitching in a nail-biter to he's got an 8-run cushion now.
He's got a laugher. He's already got a manicure, and he's done. You know, they can go ahead and push him a lot more now, you know, where they might not have if it was a low-scoring game. But, I mean, he's thrown the ball well. The Indians only have 3 hits. That's been a very good pitch for him today, is that curveball. That's been the separator for him. Young man has a good curveball. We told you he has good stuff. His fastball command has been a little off, but
I'll
tell you what.
Martin took that one right and square in the chest on the bounce in the dirt.
We'll see if he's still alive by All-Star break. With as many, look at this, down and in the dirt.
Might have got him in the arm.
You know, the sad thing, there's nobody on base where you have to block it, but he's been putting bodies in there. You know, look at the umpires giving him time to.
Well, that's the whole thing. A lot of times people think, well, why does he throw his ball? You've got to protect the umpire.
You can't leave
that guy hung out to dry.
No.
If you want to ever get a
Who
call.
was it? I saw a highlight where it was Bill Miller yesterday. He took a ball right off the kneecap and went down. Ended up staying in the game, but it was one of those plays where just he didn't get anything on it. The catcher didn't.
Every once in a while that happens. You'll see the catcher set up away, and the umpire stays in over the plate. And the pitcher misses his target by so much, and the catcher just can't get back to get it.
Or it's a foul tip or something like that. Yeah, it was pretty bad. He went down, but he was okay eventually.
3-2. Moss sends one high in the air. Deep right center field. Valencia on the track at the wall, and it's the center fielder Pilar who gets there to make the grab at the base of the fence for out number 1. Here's our AT&T U-verse rewind. Last year in a game against the Toronto Blue Jays, David Murphy had a day he'll never forget. He had 5 hits in a ball game against Toronto pitching. You don't forget those days.
No, and that was last May. That's when we were in Toronto. This year we don't go to Toronto until September.
Last day of August? Last day of
August, yes.
First 2 days of September.
September 1st and 2nd, right.
2-0 pitch, a little bit low. Well, it was Murphy, like Moss, who almost hit one out of here back in the 4th inning. Full
Good
count.
pitch. You see, when he stays free and easy, Sanchez, it looks like that ball just explodes. That's at the knees right there. Good pitch.
Tap to short. 2 down. Going to bring up Lonnie Chisenhall. Lonnie 0 for 2 on the day. A couple of ground ball outs. The 0-1 pitch, up and away. Hard hit ground ball through the hole on the right side. Fourth hit of the game for Cleveland. And we'll bring up Roberto Perez. And a strike is called. Perez bounced out to second base in the second inning, struck out in the fourth. Low and away. A little bit low and outside. 2 balls and a strike. Sanchez with his 100th pitch of the day, and it's in the dirt. 3-1. Indians scored a run on the first and one on the third.
Well, look at that, a 6 and a 9 pitch inning. He looks like a 20 pitch inning guy, but he can be tough. See if he comes here. The last 3 pitches have been fastballs. He's missed the zone. Can he just throw his curveball for a strike? Nope, misses.
So 2 on, 2 out. And Tyler Holt will be the batter. And Tyler Holt takes a strike. Holt went down swinging in the third, was called out on strikes in the fifth. Hit .328 in 19 games at AAA Columbus. Scored a dozen runs. Almost hit him. That ball really took off on Sanchez. You know, you mentioned earlier you see his ball move a lot. Watch how much this one moves.
I know. It all depends on his arm slot. He gets underneath. I don't know if he's getting tired. It was his last start. It was the first time he was over the 100 pitch mark. But this guy, if he ever finds it and can stay in the same arm slot for a while, he could be tough. There's the C. You slow him down. You drop the hook in there. It's 1-2 after he just threw one under the chin. Liam Hendricks is up now in the bullpen. This will be the last out, or possibly the last hitter for Sanchez to begin with.
And that came up and hit Holt in the batter's box. In the dirt. 2 on, 2 out. And Sanchez with a 2-2 pitch. And it gets away from Martin, and the runners, Chisenhall and Perez, will move up.
I don't know if it was a cross up or that ball just took off on him. I'll tell you what, but Martin he's been all over the place. He just spikes at a fastball down near the toe.
You're right. The way he reacted, though, something didn't
seem right, did it?
No. They're going to go out and chat it up a little bit here. Looked like Sanchez may have crossed him up. Pete Walker, the pitching coach. All intents and purposes, this is it. Last batter of the game, probably the last pitch. And it's ball 4, and the bases are loaded. He's walked 2 in a row. And here comes John Gibbons. He'll make his move to the bullpen. And the day is over for Aaron Sanchez after he goes 5 2/3. Had 2 outs, nobody on base here in the inning, but a single and back-to-back walks will end his day. But the Blue Jays are in command 10-2. Have to go to the bullpen, though, because Aaron Sanchez ran out of gas, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
So Liam Hendricks will come into a bases-loaded 2-out situation.
Yeah, he had the first 2 out in this inning, Matt, and Chisenhall got a 2-out base hit, and then he walked Perez and Holt. And you're down at the bottom part of the lineup, a 10-2 lead. You're saying, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the first 2 outs, but he couldn't finish the 6th.
But, boy, if Jason Kipnis could ever get into one right here, you'd certainly change the entire complexion of this game. It could go from being a laugher for Toronto to suddenly it's game on again. Kipnis walked and scored his first 2 times up, singled in the 5th. He homered last night. Couple of homers on the homestand. Takes a called strike. He's got a good history against Hendricks. Out of play to the left. Down on the count, 0-2. And Kipnis fouls it into the Toronto dugout. Jason 3 for 10 in the series. Bases loaded, 2 outs, 0-2 pitch. Kipnis called out to end the inning. Indians leave him loaded, and we'll go to the 7th, 10-2 Toronto. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. (10-2) Toronto, 7th inning. And the Indians go back to the bullpen. And it will be Ryan Webb making his second appearance.
Yeah, first appearance, 3 innings. And he'll be back in here to maybe pitch a couple of more.
Well, that equaled the second longest outing of his major league career. Webb has the bottom of the order for Toronto. Ryan Goins the leadoff. Slowly chopped to second. Kipnis has to hurry, and he gets his man one away. So Toronto, we all know, plays in the Rogers Center, a retractable roof facility. How about this, though, for a scheduling quirk? You know, we always talk about teams that have the domes or that play in a really nice weather. You'd like to see them, you know, play a lot of home games
in April.
Yeah, so how about Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay has played 24 games this year. 21 of them have been indoors.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, does that include this series with Baltimore that has shifted down that way, right?
Yep. This would have been their second outdoor series of the year, but it was shifted.
Really?
Let me see, Tampa Bay 23. So this will be their 24th game. So this will be 21 out of 24. They play in a little while. But, yeah, just a goofy scheduling quirk. They opened at home against the Orioles, so they're indoors. Their first road trip goes to Miami. The Marlins have the new dome facility. Then they go to Toronto, dome facility. They come home, play the Yankees and Red Sox and the Blue Jays at home. Then they go to New York. So their first outdoor game of the year isn't until April 27th. They play the Yankees for 3. Supposed to go to Baltimore, but then that series gets shifted.
That tells you why they only have 6 or 7 errors as a team.
They're all on the turf.
Yeah.
Kind of getting used to it.
You know,
Crazy, though.
It is. I did not realize that.
Valencia chops it to third. And Lonnie Chisenhall throws him out 2 away. Let's go downstairs and check in with Andre Nadu as more on Devon Travis, who's one hit today, couple of runs scored. But, boy, he's opened a lot of eyes, hasn't he?
Absolutely. We're watching a little bit of history with him. He's the only second baseman in Major League history with 6 home runs, 19 RBI, and OPS over 1,000 or better through 22 career games. What a start for Devon Travis.
Well, as I said before, Andre, he's not a big guy. He doesn't, in terms of if you're out there watching him walk around the field, he wouldn't be the first guy that catches your eye. But, Rick, you said he's compact.
Yes, he's solid.
And baseball's all about forearms and wrists, getting the bat through the hitting zone.
He's a strong kid. And this was an opportunity for this young man because he's in, he was in Detroit, and he was roadblocked because Kinsler's there. So Detroit says, well, we need an extra outfielder, and then they go out and get Anthony Gose, who is with Toronto, and it worked out really for both of them. Detroit needed a piece. Toronto gets a guy that needs an opportunity, and he's off to a great start.
7th inning stretch here at Progressive Field, brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, is coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. Chop foul. Jose Ramirez, 1 for 3 on the afternoon. Took one right down the heart of the plate. 0-2. Pulls it to first. And Encarnacion with a nifty flip. One away. A little flashback, September 2nd, 1990. At Old Cleveland Stadium, Jerry Brown, the governor, trying to drive one deep. Not deep enough. And Dave Stieb throws a no-hitter.
Well, he almost threw about
3 times he came so close.
Yeah.
Before that.
I remember the one that bounced. I don't know if it was a week before or whatever. Julio Franco's ball bounced over somebody's head. It was 2 years before.
2 years before. He went September 24th, also against Cleveland, 8 2/3 innings. And on a 2-2 pitch, Franco, a base hit to center field. Got the next batter out, 1-hit shutout.
Yeah.
The next week, next time out, inside corner called strike. At home against Baltimore, he had a no-hitter into the 9th.
Yeah.
Pinch hitter Jim Traber on a 2-2 count got a base hit. Next batter grounded out. Steve had back-to-back one-hitters.
That guy had no-hit stuff anytime he took the mound, I got to tell you.
Wow, and what a play by Encarnacion as he robs Michael Brantley of at least a hit, if not extra bags there.
Now watch this no-hitter, or the one-hitter, I should say.
Boink. Oh, my. What did that hit?
I needed to find that lip on that infield I could never find. Look at that. He can't believe it. That was the one hit.
What are you going to do?
On the infield, it hit that lip and it took off. There's nothing you could do.
Carlos Santana takes a strike.
That's how a no-hitter is. You got to be lucky. You know, it's so strange.
But, I mean, think about that. Back-to-back starts, 8 2/3 innings, and you lose it 2 times in a row.
I know.
You still finish the job.
Just wasn't meant to be.
Shutout.
And then you come back and you get one.
And then the next year in April 10th, 1989, his third one-hitter in 2 seasons. Indians go quickly
How
and
about
quietly.
that? 3-1, 3-1, 3-1.
Here in the 7th. Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. And we go to the 8th inning. Josh Donaldson to lead it off. Ryan Webb a 1-2-3 7th. Stays on to pitch here in the 8th. Fouled off.
The Blue Jays with 12 hits today. 5 extra base hits, 4 doubles, and a homer. The homer is only a solo home run back in the 4th inning.
Yeah, last night it was the Indians with 13 hits as they rolled to a 9-4 victory. But today, the big inning in the 6th, a 6-run 6th inning for Toronto. that essentially came against the Indians' bullpen. The leadoff double by Kevin Pillar came against Corey Kluber, but then it was Zubchinski, Swarzak, and Shaw. And the Indians' bullpen last 3 games had combined for 12 consecutive innings without allowing an earned run. But couldn't close the deal against the Blue Jays today. And the error, as we pointed out, it certainly was costly.
Well, and then again, when you go back to the start of this game, Corey Kluber going just 5 innings. He went out for the 6th, faced one batter, and gave up his 8th hit, and he was gone. But, you know, the times he made mistakes today is that Toronto, they didn't miss him, man. They hurt him.
Line to short. That'll be caught. Well, here it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite, and Jose Bautista struck out his first 2 times up. 3rd time up, a 2-run single that snapped a 2-2 tie. Next time up, a 2-run double that blew it open for the Blue Jays.
Yeah. And now Donaldson scored standing, but the third base coach, Rivera, was holding him up all the way, and he ran right through it and still scored. He's going to tell Louis after the game, see, I'm faster than you think.
I agree with your initial assessment. He just couldn't downshift. He broke his clutch.
You know what? That could be, because a lot of times when you're running like that, it's tougher to stop, or you got a chance of hurting yourself. More than it is, just keep right on running until they tag you.
Well, we noted that he hadn't been running real good earlier in the season. In fact, it was last night.
Right.
John Gibbons came out of the dugout and looked like he was gesturing, asking him when he was at first base, "Are you okay?" But then when we watched him run on the bases, he looked, I don't know, 75% maybe at best.
At best.
Popped back out of play. Swing and a miss. He strikes him out. 2 down. Webb has retired all 5 that he has faced. The in-game box score brought to you by Hyundai. And for Toronto, everybody but Donaldson has recorded a hit. Last night, every Indian starter had at least 1 hit.
Justin Smoke going to pinch hit for Encarnacion. Had a double last night in the 9th inning with 2 out off the left field wall.
Swung out and missed. Chased one down. The 0-2 to Smoke. Got him looking. Ryan Webb, impressive here today. He's retired all 6 that he has faced. But it's 10-2 Toronto. Presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. Justin Smoke takes over at first base for Toronto. Jonathan Diaz now in at short, and Ryan Goins moves from short over to third. Liam Hendricks has worked an inning and a third scoreless relief. Brandon Moss gaps one to left center field. And he goes in standing. The leadoff double. His fourth hit in the series. And just the fifth hit in the game for Cleveland.
Takes a little two-seam fastball the other way and plugs the gap with it. First extra base hit for the Tribe. 5 hits on the afternoon.
A little bit low, ball one. Outside, he missed. Hendricks struck out Jason Kipnis to end the 6th inning with the bases loaded. Then got 3 ground ball outs to the first baseman Encarnacion, who flipped it to Hendricks in the 7th inning. But then Moss leads off the 8th with a double. And now a 2-1 count for Murphy. That's out of play. The 2-2. That
wow.
Breaking ball nailed Martin right in the face mask.
Took it right off his head. My guess is he's going to get tomorrow off. Just a guess. I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong. But, I mean, he's been beaten up in the first 3 games of this series.
Out of play. Upstairs with it. Full count for Murphy. Payoff pitch. Hit on the ground to third. Goins throws out Murphy one away. Moss moves over to third base. Don't miss MLB Whip Around on Fox Sports 1 with highlights, analysis, and live look-ins from around the league. MLB Whip Around is on every weeknight at 7 Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Lonnie Chisenhall singled his last time up. Checks on a ball inside. Good breaking ball. Drops in for a strike. That's out of play. Lonnie Chisenhall finds himself down on the count 1-2 with 1-on-1 out here in the 8th inning. Ran it up high, and it just glanced off the bat of Chisenhall on a little check.
Tell you what, he didn't even check, I didn't think. That go off the knob of the bat. He's choking up. Watch this. It goes off the knob. How about that? I didn't think he checked.
In the dirt. That's inside and off the plate, and now a full count. Martin awaits a 3-2 pitch. And Lonnie, a bouncer to second. It gets through the legs of Devon Travis, and Chisenhall's going to go for second. Moss comes home to score. It's a 10-3 ball game. And then Chisenhall to second base. Travis, he had to go quite a ways to get to it, but he was in front of it. And then the ball just, I don't know if it took a funny hop on him or what happened.
Well, it's just one of those balls. No, he has to make that play right there and just get the out at first base. He doesn't. The RBI, the run would have scored anyway. So I'm sure he's going to be an error, RBI. Chisenhall goes to second.
That is the scorer's decision. Roberto Perez 0 for 2 with a walk, the batter now. And he checks on a ball in the dirt. Another one goes to the backstop. Down to third goes Chisenhall. That's the third wild pitch of the game by my count.
Yeah. This is a breaking ball. It just deflects off Martin's glove. It's chest protector.
I mean, I understand you don't want to throw balls down the middle, but you're working with a 10-3 lead. You would think you want to challenge some hitters more than what we've seen from Hendricks. I mean, he's thrown 30 pitches and a little over an inning of work, an inning and 2/3. Swing and a miss. And that fastball's low. Bullpen back up for Toronto. Left-hander Aaron Loop getting loose. The 2-1. That's out of play. Evens it up. The 2-2. A little bit low. Full count.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about you have to be a little more aggressive. That's more like nibbling, really.
And the payoff pitch. Line to left. Tagging, coming home, throw way off line. Perez picks up his 7th run batted in on the year, and it's a 10-4 ball game as the Indians have played it a pair here in the 8th inning. And that'll bring up Tyler Holt. Holt with a walk his last time up after he struck out his first 2 times to the plate. And a fastball over the outside corner. Bounced it in there. And the 1-1. Back out of play. If you missed it earlier, the Yankees beat the Red Sox 4-2. And the top team in the AL East, Minnesota, beat Chicago 5-3. Twins are back to 500 at 12-12. 4.5 out of first in the division. White Sox have lost 4 in a row. And they've fallen to 8-13 on the year as that ball's fouled back into Martin. This guy has just been beat up.
Oh. Yes, he has. That's a foul tip right into the knee guard.
Now the 1-2. Holt punches one to center field, and what a running catch by Pilar. He got a terrific jump on that ball like he was shot out of a cannon. Indians get a pair. They're down 10-4. Toronto as we roll on to the 9th inning. And it's time for our Pat O'Brien play of the game.
Well, that bat right there, a little cutter, shattered the bat. 2 runs scored. Bautista, he struck him out the first 2 times, but that was a big hit for him there.
Drove in 4 runs in his next 2 at-bats with a 2-run single and a 2-run double. Nick Hagan coming on for the 11th time this year. Russell Martin has 2 hits on the day, a home run and a base hit in the 6th. The 0-1 up high. I tell you what, if the lights go out in a night game, you wouldn't have any trouble finding Martin with those shoes he's got on, huh? Hits that one hard, but foul. Pulled it down the left side. She was not going to even.
Did that hit her?
I think it hit the seat right in front of her, maybe. She was just saying, please don't hit me.
I think she was stuck to the chair. She didn't move.
Crowd of just over 18,000 here today, and a lot of raucous Blue Jay fans right
it
in
hit
front
her
of
in
her.
the leg, I thought.
No, it hit the seat right in front of her. That one's smoked, and that's fair. Brantley with a great bare hand grab and throw towards second base, and just a bit offline as Martin pulls in with a leadoff double.
Double number 5 for the Jays today. Lead the league in that department. Comes a heater right up his alley. Martin smokes it to left field. Brantley played it, bare hands it, makes a throw in, but Martin stayed standing.
Blue Jays have doubled in 22 consecutive games, and they've gone ahead of Kansas City in the double category to take over the league lead. 53. Kansas City with 50. They're just underway at home against Detroit. Hit the third, backhanded by Chisenhall. Long throw across. Got him there. Oh, called safe. Said Santana came off the bag. So first and third, nobody out.
Looks like Francona wants to take a look at it. He's waiting to see on the replay if Santana was off the bag. The backhand by Chisenhall. He plants, he throws, and let's see. He's up, and I can't tell from that angle. Looks like they're going to, it'll be under review.
Oh, I think he came back. It looked like his foot came back down on before Pilar got there. Let's take another look. He's off, and, well, boy.
That's bang, man.
Where do you determine
contact,
contact, right?
I really don't know. And the call on the field is he was safe.
John Hirschbeck is the crew chief on your right. Well, in the double box, the umpires, he's on your right. John Tumpain, the man who made the call, to the left. Play will be reviewed at Command Central back in New York. And then they'll relay the information to Hirschbeck, the crew chief. We'll take one more look at it.
Well, there you can't tell if his foot's on the base or not, and then Pilar's foot comes down in. I can't see anything there. Here's the other look we get, and can you tell if his foot's on the base by the time Pilar's comes down? I can't. That's that close.
It looked to me, Rick, like, and again, without the, if we had the ability to do it ourselves and go frame by frame, it did look like Santana's foot was coming back down on the bag, maybe just a fraction before the foot of Pilar got there. But this is almost like last night. You know, that play at the plate was so close. The question is, who's looking at it and what do they view as clear and convincing evidence? We didn't think we saw clear and convincing evidence last night, but they overturned the call anyway.
Well, they said he tagged him, and we showed the shot they took, but
well, John Hirschbeck awaits the decision as we wait it out here. First and third right now for the Blue Jays. They already lead it 10-4. Well, they have a decision.
He's out.
So credit Lonnie Chisenhall with an assist. And Russell Martin goes to third with one out. This was the play last night, ruled safe on the field, and then overturned on video replay. On this particular replay angle is what we were told. They determined that he did get a tag on him before he touched home plate. Infield in for the Tribe. Michael Saunders is 1 for 3 on the day. A little bit inside, 2-0. That's smoke to right, base hit, another run in for Toronto. 11-4 Jays, as Saunders has his second hit of the day and his second RBI on the year. Looked like Russell Martin was relaying information to maybe Danny Valencia, the on-deck hitter. Guys are wondering what the big left-hander's featuring. Again, these two teams don't play each other very often, and you just don't get a look at these pitchers.
And I'll tell you what he's featuring. He's featuring one pitch, a fastball. He can't throw his curveball for a strike. So until he proves he can throw that, then they can sit on one pitch, just go up and look for the heater.
Hit to center field. And Tyler Holt has it 2 down. Up comes Danny Valencia. Big curveball and a missed ball.
You take it. You know, first pitch, you're not going to swing at it. And that, if Nick could throw that for a strike, it'd set up the at bat. When you don't try and throw your nasty wipeout curveball first pitch, throw it over for strike one.
Out of play. Nelson Cruz hit his 12th home run of the year, leads the league in that category in the first inning against Houston.
His 12th.
Second inning. Yeah, top of the second. First pitch. Boom. Danny Valencia with a 1-ball, 2-strike count. And a runner at first, 2 away here in the ninth, and the Indians down 11-4. Strikes him out, ends the inning. Blue Jays add a run. Last half of the ninth coming up next. Furniture keys to the game. Kluber trying to counter the Jays' aggressive nature. But they racked up 8 hits against the Cy Young Award winner in 5+ innings. Tagged it for 4 earned. And offensively, the Indians just never got any traction today. Only 4 hits against starter Aaron Sanchez and a couple of runs. Scott Copeland will pitch here in the 9th. He just got the call up. Jason Kipnis takes inside ball 1. Andrew Albers was sent back to Buffalo along with outfielder Dalton Pompey, and then Scott Copeland and Ezekiel Carrero were called up.
Didn't take long, did it? He came on yesterday, and he's back down today.
The 1-1 to Kipnis. Down, I think that one went between the umpire's legs. Way outside. 3 balls and a strike. Generous, very generous, as called a strike. And the payoff pitch is line to center for a base hit. The Indians had their leadoff man aboard in the bottom of the 9th. Down 7, Jose Ramirez will be next.
Well, you come in, you figure he has to throw a strike. He throws Kipnis a fastball, and that's the second hit for Jay. He's 2 for 3. He's walked twice. He scored 2 of the 4 runs. So on base again, and he's feeling pretty comfortable in that leadoff spot.
Jose Ramirez takes a called strike, 1-1. Ramirez singled his first time up. Since then, he's grounded out twice, reached on an error. Checks. Strike called. Way outside. 2-2. Series concludes tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock start time here at Progressive Field. Slowly chopped and it goes foul. We'll have it for you right here on Sports Time Ohio as Trevor Bauer goes for the Indians against Drew Hutchinson. Alan Jensen will get you started tomorrow at 12:30 with Indians Live. Trevor Bauer, gutsy, really gutsy effort his last time out. Hopefully he's feeling a lot better. 2-2. Double play ball to second. They get one there. And safe at first. So Ramirez reaching on the fielder's choice. That's going to bring up Michael Brantley. Brantley, 1 out of 3, an RBI single in the 3rd inning. He has 2 stolen bases today and robbed of a hit in the 7th on a nice play at first base by Encarnacion. To left field. And Saunders makes the catch 2 away. And that will bring up Carlos Santana, who is 0 for 3 today. Ramirez takes off down to second base. And now he'll roll over to third. Santana takes. One ball, one strike. Missed inside, 2-1. Three balls and a strike on Santana. And a 3-1 pitch. Chopped to first. And Smoke makes the play, tags the bag, and the ball game is over. The Blue Jays rout the Indians by a final score of 11-4. They've taken 2 out of 3. The series finale will be tomorrow. Toronto goes to 12-13 on the year. Indians fall to 8-15. Aaron Sanchez, the winner for Toronto. He's now 2-2. Corey Kluber, the loss for the Indians. He is now 0-4. Well, the story of today's game, for the 6th time this year, the Blue Jays had a 5-run inning. Came in the 6th inning. And for the 6th time this year, the Blue Jays scored 10 or more in a ballgame. That's the most in the majors. So they were just too much, as the Indians didn't have a whole lot to answer with offensively here today.
Once again, I mean, with Kluber on the mound, I know he pitched 5 innings. The offense could muster 2 runs. So total different start to this year than last. And now the Indians are going to have to try and come back with Bauer tomorrow and you know, to split the series. And again, trouble playing at home.
So the final today, Toronto 11, Cleveland 4. We're back with you tomorrow for the series finale. For Andre Knott, Rick Manning, I'm Matt Underwood. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned. Indians Live, presented by Conrad's, is next.